Hey, welcome. In our super connected world, we're constantly sharing information. But let's be real, some of that info is way, way more sensitive than the rest. So today, we're going to dive deep into the world of health data security, how your most personal secrets are protected, and why it matters so, so much. So let me ask you something. What's the most valuable thing you own? Your first thought might be your car or your house, right? Maybe a family heirloom. But what if I told you that one of your most valuable assets isn't something you can touch at all? It's digital, and it tells the complete story of you. I'm talking about your health information, and we're not just talking about a diagnosis. This right here, this is just a fraction of the 18 specific things that are legally protected. We're talking about your name, your social security number, even your fingerprints and photos of your face. I mean, this is literally the data that makes you, you. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, here's our game plan. First, we'll figure out what this data actually is. Then, we'll look at the threats trying to get it. After that, we'll see how the experts built a digital fortress, get to know the official rulebook, and finally, check out how all this data actually helps make healthcare better for all of us. All right, first step. Before you can protect the treasure, you've got to know exactly what that treasure is. So let's get official and define this thing we're trying to protect. The official name for all this stuff is Protected Health Information, or PHI for short. Basically, it's any health data that can be traced back to you when it's being held by a covered entity. Your doctor, a hospital, your insurance company. Everything we just saw on that last slide, your name, your records, your photo, it all falls under this giant umbrella of PHI. This is the treasure. And, just like any good story with a treasure, there are always villains. So let's meet the threats that make all this security stuff so incredibly important. The scary part? Threats can come from just about anywhere. You've got your internal threats. Sometimes it's an honest mistake, but other times it's an employee abusing their access for money or even just for spite. And then, of course, you've got the external threats. The hackers, the ransomware, all the bad guys trying to break down the door from the outside. One of the most popular ways for attackers to get in isn't some super complex hack. Nope, it's just tricking a person into opening the door for them. It's called social engineering. It's not a tech attack, it's a psychological one. It's a con game, pure and simple. And phishing is the classic example, right? You get an email that looks totally legit, that's the bait. It's got a link or an attachment and asks you to click it, that's the hook. And once you click, bam, that's the catch. You've just handed over the keys. It's so simple, but it is devastatingly effective. So with all these threats trying to get in, how do we stop them? Well, you build a fortress, a data fortress. Let's take a look at the layers that go into a modern security program. Okay, so every solid security program is built on these three core ideas, what they call the CIA triad. You have confidentiality, making sure only the right people see the data; integrity, making sure the data is accurate and hasn't been messed with; and availability, making sure the right people can actually get to it when they need it. It's a nonstop balancing act between these three things. And to get that balance right, security pros use three different kinds of safeguards. First, you've got administrative safeguards. That's all the people stuff, like policies and training. Then there are physical safeguards, things you can actually touch, like locks on doors and secure server rooms. And finally, technical safeguards. That's all the tech, like encryption and firewalls. Let's drill down on one of those technical safeguards, authentication. It's all about proving you are who you say you are. The system checks for something you know, like a password, or something you have, like a keycard, or something you are, like your fingerprint. And you've probably noticed that the best security uses a mix of these, right? Now, all these security measures aren't just good ideas somebody came up with. They are, in fact, the law. And that brings us to the official rulebook for all things health data. $3 million. And no, this is not some made-up number. This was a real settlement paid by a medical imaging company because they failed to secure patient data. We're talking thousands of people put at risk. This is exactly what happens when you break the rules. So the rulebook is called HIPAA. That's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It was passed way back in 1996, and it sets the national standard for protecting all that PHI we were talking about. It is the legal backbone for all of this. Now, a really important part of HIPAA is something called the breach notification rule. It lays out exactly what has to happen if data gets out. And just look at how the response changes based on the size of the breach. For a small one, You notify people and log it. But check out that column on the right. If it affects 500 or more people, whoa, the requirements get way more serious. You have to tell the government immediately and even notify the media. The main takeaway here is that the penalties for messing this up are severe. Fines can hit $50,000 per violation, and if it's found to be willful neglect, it can lead to criminal charges. We're talking massive fines and even actual prison time. They do not play around with this. But here's the cool part. Security isn't just about playing defense and avoiding big fines. When data is safe and managed well, we can actually go on offense and use that data to make healthcare better for every single one of us. And that brings us to the world of quality improvement, or QI. It's really just a structured way of using data to make things better. Think about it, using data to lower infection rates in a hospital or to cut down on ER wait times. Secure, reliable data is what fuels all of that progress. Now, there are a bunch of fancy models for this stuff, but one of the simplest and most powerful tools is this little thing right here, the PDSA cycle. It stands for Plan, Do, Study, Act. It's just an elegant 4-step loop for testing a change. You plan what you're going to do it on a small scale. You study the results, and then you act on what you learned. You just repeat this simple cycle over and over to drive constant improvement. Okay, so we've seen how to defend our data and how to use it for good. So for our last step, let's pull the camera back and look at the big picture to really see why all of this matters so much. You know, everything we've talked about today, security, privacy rules, quality improvement, it all fits under this bigger idea called information governance. Think of it as the master plan. It's a strategy that treats data not as some dangerous thing you have to lock away, but as a super valuable asset that you can manage, secure, and use to make healthcare better and safer. Because in the end, it really all comes down to this. Your health data isn't just numbers on a screen. It's the personal, intimate story of your life. And this whole massive field of health data security is built around one single powerful question. Who gets to read that story? And under what rules? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.